Are we live? Are we here? Hello, floralpreneurs. Good morning. Once again, I'm a couple minutes late, and again, I will claim it is not my fault. I've been waiting for like 6 minutes for this to just like sync my streaming to the YouTube. So I'm going to apologize in advance for being late in any future streams. I'm doing my best. Welcome. Good morning. Tuesday Q&A. If you're coming back, thanks for being back. And if it's your first time, welcome. I'm Alison Ellis of realflowerbusiness.com. I teach floral designers how to run the business side of your business with a little more ease, a little more fun, and a lot of passion, because flowers are the fun part that get us into floristry, but the business stuff is what keeps us in business. It's how we keep our customers coming back. And being excited about running a business is really, really an important aspect of our job, because it's what we're doing. If all we did was design flowers, it'd be a lot easier. I'll tell you that much. And I love the business stuff. So for people who don't love the business stuff, I know it can be a drag. That's why I'm here. So let's hop into it. I am answering real questions from real florists every Tuesday, and I have 5 things lined up today. Some of them are quick, and some of them somewhat relate to each other, and I'm going to just hop right on into them. If you have questions, you can ask me anytime. Top priority always goes to people in my Patreon community, though, so you can join there for as little as $3, and you can also join at a higher level for $29 a month and be a part of a live monthly group coaching call that we do, so you can get one-on-one attention from me. Well, one on a few attention. It's a small group. So I'm going to hop into it. First question comes from one of my Patreon members on anemones. So they have a client who loves anemones, wants anemones to be like featured in the wedding. And they heard another florist say recently that they hate working with anemones, that they're really finicky. So she was asking, what do you think? And I hate to say, I agree with the florist who said they're really finicky. So here's the straight dope on anemones. They're gorgeous. They're everywhere in photos. But I do, after many years of ordering anemones, by the way, something you never saw 30 years ago in floristry, right? This is things come and go, trends come, trends stay, you know? Anemones are one of those things. They're unique. They're interesting. They have that black center that just, people can't resist. It's so interesting. It's so different. But here is what I have learned about anemones over the years, especially because what do they always want? They want white. They want white anemones. So here's what I've learned. I need to order way more anemones than I actually need in order to get like 10 usable stems. What I've also learned is when I order white anemones, sometimes they come kind of red or pink, even if it's just like one petal or a brush on the petal, but it can completely ruin the entire look, particularly of a like bouquet, if there's any coloration on the white petals. Every now and again, you'll order an anemone that doesn't come with a black center. So by the way, if you're ordering it for the black center, make sure you specify that, because they can come with like a green center, which is way less exciting. And, they do ding easily, blow open, and they're delicate. They need to be like in the cooler. So when somebody loves anemones, here's how I handle it. I validate. I love them too. They're so cool. Here's the thing. So I just shoot them straight on. I don't bring them, when we're educating customers, which I put in air quotes because I think sometimes people say educating customers with a super negative bent to it. So I'm saying this not in that way. When we are getting customers to buy in to what we're selling, okay, which is the idea that we know best. I don't need to take them into every single negative thing that could happen or every bad experience I've ever had with an anemone to convince them. But what I can say is I love them. We can order them and we can have our fingers crossed. But there are a couple things to know. One, they don't always come true to color. Two, they're very finicky, right? Like if they're just a little bit dinged, I can't use the entire flower. If we have one of them, I don't know, do they have 5 petals anemones? I forget. But whatever, if just one of those petals is damaged, the whole thing is unusable. So that's a place to start. But the simplest, easiest, most convincing way to talk someone out of anemones on their wedding day is that exact same thing that drew them to the anemone in the first place, that black center. That black center is full of what? Black pollen. And it sheds. At certain times, it's way more sheddier than other times. So the shedding of the pollen can ruin the petals. The petals get covered in the black dust and they're no longer white. But you know what else could get covered in that black pollen? A wedding dress. Watch how quickly that bride no longer needs to have that anemone, okay? It is a foolproof little trick. But then I still want to let them know I can still order them. I can use my discretion, but we just don't want to rely on this, right? We don't want to rely on an all anemone bouquet, because if they come with slightly dinged petals that are slightly pink and covered in black pollen, we're not going to use them. Okay, that said, have you heard of faux anemones? Not something I've done myself. Labor intensive. This is going to be something you need to charge more for because there's labor. But essentially what people do to make like a fake out anemone is you can use like a super tight scabiosa, like a burgundy scabiosa that's almost black. You can wire that through like a white lisianthus, for example. And you can create that black center with the white petals and have a little faux anemone. I've also seen people use like little Santini mums and spray paint those black and put that into the center. Now, my goal as a business owner, part of my brand like vision, is that I'm not attracting customers that are so dead set on that anemone that I have to make, as my friend Lori would say, a Frankenflower. It's okay to do that. If you're having fun, go for it. But if I have to sit and make, 50 Lisianthus scabiosa hybrids, there's labor and that's money that goes into that, okay? So just keep that in mind. Ideally, we want a customer who is trusting our judgment. And then when we order the anemones and then they do happen to come in and they look great and the pollen's not shedding, guess what? You are a superstar because you delivered the thing that you set them up to know isn't as easy as it might seem. And you followed through, you came through, and you made their dreams come true, right? Which is what our job is at the end of the day, making dreams come true. All right, so that's my spiel on anemone. I think the hardest are definitely the whites. When they want like a purple, or if they're open to red or other colors, it's a little bit easier, but we've still got the delicate issue, right? We still have I was gonna say the delicacy, but that doesn't seem like the right word. Okay, so there's the first question. All right, second question also happened to come from someone in my Patreon community, but the question was posted in my Facebook group, and it's about photography. And what do you do when you have photos of your work and then the professional photographer's work has filtered, and like adjusted the color on your images? I really like this question because it's very real. There are times, I can think of one wedding in particular where like loved the wedding, loved the family, loved the venue, everything, love. And the photos from the photographer, the grass is not even grass color. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, everything is like way, way brighter. And so it washes things out. It doesn't have the same quality or interest. The flowers themselves don't look as good sometimes that way. But again, the photographer is hired, right, to do their thing. We're hired to do our thing. And this is why we want to capture our own work. Because, and I'll tell you this story, I have told this story before, so forgive me if you have heard this one before. It's been a really long time since I've told it, but a friend of mine did a wedding. Bride loved it. Everything was great. Photos came back a few weeks later, and she complained about the color of the flowers. Now, luckily, my friend had photos of her work, so she was able to show her the true to color. Like, this is actually what I delivered to you. Like, what you have here, your photographer edited those. This is what it looked like when I brought it to you. So that was a very long time ago, and it was a really good lesson to me. Take pictures of your work. Because if you ever have somebody who goes, wait, that wasn't the color pink I ordered, when they get their professional photos back, you can say, oh, well, it's still a beautiful image, right? We don't have to diss the photographer and say, oh, it looks terrible, it's not true to color. Fine. Some of us would love something that's not so true to color, we wouldn't mind a little editing. However, we are running a business, right? So we do need some kind of like evidence of what we have delivered. And also when we want to sell it, it's hard to sell an image that's been edited because you can't promise that you can make that blue, that soft blue, even more washed out. You can't necessarily promise those things. So the question was really, when that happens, do you post like both? Like, do you show what you did and show what they did? And to me, it just comes down to, if you like the image, if it's pretty, if it's in your interest to share it because it's going to be a good sort of like connection, right? Like association with this other venue, the photographer, other people involved, then I think you should post it. It's only if it looks like, wow, that's really a misrepresentation, then maybe I might not post it. But we don't have to be like endorsing like that this is a perfect photo to share the work, especially like I said, if it's a pretty photo and it's slightly edited, it's fine. Your work will be somewhere represented in your Instagram feed, hopefully on your website, in a blog post. You could even talk about it. Your photographer has a style. I don't have a style of photography. All I have is point and shoot with my camera, my phone. I used to bring a camera and do all kinds of stuff, right? But for a long time now, it's been just a phone, and I'm just shooting what I got. I am not setting up lights or doing anything like that. So this is where it always goes back to, what is your intention? So if your intention is to proudly show off the work that you did, share those photos. If it really, really does not represent your work and you feel like, I have absolutely seen stuff where I'm like, that doesn't look, I won't share that, then don't share it. It's okay. Or you can share it in your stories and then it disappears. Doesn't have to be there forever. But and this isn't about judging the photographers for doing their filters or doing whatever they're doing. Like, I don't know anything about that. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know anything about it. All I know is if I was hired to make a bouquet and, you've ordered raspberry pink, I'm going to take a picture, and if your photographer edits it out so like, the raspberry looks more like a light pink, I at least can say, oh, I totally understand how that happens. Let me show you what it really looked like. Okay? That's how I feel about it. And that was part of what you asked and partially not what you asked, but anyway, it's my Q&A and I'll do what I want to. I do share both if I like the image and the photographer. All right, so that was question number 2. All right, question number 3. I got 5 questions total. So how do you deal with donating flowers after an event? Okay, Jacqueline asked this one and I love it. So This is a really, I don't know why, a touchy subject is what I want to say. So the question is, what do you do if a customer would like for you to donate the flowers after a wedding? There is so much that goes into this. So the short answer is most of us don't do that. Most of us do not do this. And here's why. It takes time. We got to go back. We got to get the flowers. Either they're in a container that you can donate, or they need to be rearranged into something else. If I weren't live, I would edit little like dollar signs over my head while I'm saying these things, okay? So we're going back to get it. We're bringing it back to our studio, perhaps having to rearrange it. Then we have to re-deliver it somewhere. And we need to beforehand identify who is willing to receive 15 arrangements, 20 arrangements. I don't know what you're donating, okay? Easier said than done. It is not so easy to find people who just want to take your leftover flowers. Sounds hard to believe, I know. But it's the truth, because it's work for them too. Because once you deliver the flowers to be donated, now someone has to deal with them, has to put them somewhere. And then also, by the way, those flowers will die at some point, and then they have to deal with that as well. So there are reasons why you can't just show up someplace and be like, hey, here's 15 or 20 centerpieces that we used yesterday. There aren't that many people who are really looking to take that on. Also, let's think about the logistics. Are we really making that donation on a Sunday, or are they going out on Monday? And so are these flowers really like almost a week old now from your studio? What kind of donation are we really making? Again, what's our intention? If the intention is we don't want the flowers to go to waste, again, because the flowers are the only thing that lasts beyond your wedding day, right? The cake is gone, the beer and the wine and the champagne, they are drunk. The food is gone, but our flowers live on, right? Our flowers have a life. And so if we don't want them to go to waste, give them to the guests. If someone wants to take them for donation, they are like a little mini flower hero. And there are people who do that. So here's the other thing. There might be somebody in your community who would be interested in helping you coordinate this. Again, it's going to be time. Time is money. So for every phone call, email, coordination, handoff, right? You might be doing it as a labor of love because you really believe in where these flowers are going. Or you might need to let the client know, yep, and here is the fee, the repurposing donation fee, because we'll do all XYZ to help make sure that they go to a good place. So I know a couple of people who do this. One is here in Vermont, one is in Massachusetts. And again, it is a labor of love. They have to, first of all, solicit these donations of flowers. Then they go and they pick up the flowers. Oftentimes they're taking them out of centerpieces, right? And then repurposing them. They're rearranging them and then re-delivering them, right? Little flower angels who are doing these things. Bringing them to veterans homes, nursing homes, wherever they might be bringing them. It's great work. As a business, doing a donation, having some kind of giving back being built into your business I'm huge on that. So maybe this is how you do it. But for most of us, like for me, every wedding that books with me, I'm giving a donation to the Vermont Food Bank. That is my building in my giving back. I do that because it's important to me to have some sort of tie to the community, right? And to be someone who is charitable. But giving away flowers, right, isn't necessarily charitable, right? It is a beautiful thing to do. It is a gift, but not everyone, it doesn't pay the bills, right? It doesn't pay the bills at the people who are receiving the flowers, and it doesn't pay the bills for you. So this is where it is okay to try to farm it out. Like, is there someone who can do this? Is there someone who will collect the flowers? And if there is not someone who will do that, it is okay to say, I gotta be honest with you, making a donation is just so much more work than you really realize. I know it seems like all we would do is just take the flowers and bring them someplace on Sunday, but that isn't actually how it goes, right? So again, we want to attract reasonable customers to us. So reasonable people understand logistics, understand labor, understand you working on a Sunday might have a fee associated with it, right? Just being honest and upfront with people about what it takes. And truly, if you're somebody watching this, right, maybe you're not a florist now, maybe you want to be one, maybe you used to be one, but you would like to get your hands back in it. This is a great way to do it. You could say, hey, I'm here, I'll take your leftover flowers and I will distribute them to people who it will make them happy, right? I give you an idea. It's hard to do this with no funds. Ask anybody who does anything charitable. It is hard to do it without financial support. All right. All right. So hopefully that answers that question. Donations are nice, but it is time. Ties in a little bit to my fourth question here. This one came from Kristen. The client finalized their order. And then when she called the venue to check in, it turns out that the 11:30 breakdown pickup time is not accurate. It's actually 1:30 a.m. is the breakdown time. Ouch. So her question was, can I charge more even though we've already finalized? Because this is adding time on to the breakdown. Like, I would not necessarily have quoted that price for this. And the answer is heck a yes. Yes, yes, yes. Again, we want to attract customers who are reasonable. We want to speak to them in a way that is forthright and reasonable. And it's easy enough to say, hey, you know what? I just spoke with your venue and it turns out that 11:30 timing is too early. So I'm going to have to come at 1:30 and this is the rate for that because the scope has changed, right? You have changed from maybe me being asleep and in bed at 1 a.m. to now maybe it's 3 a.m. Right? So this is a very different thing that you have just signed up for all of a sudden, okay? It's not about get your money, honey. It's about, if they're trying to oh, we'll get you in here at 11:30 to break down, but you really actually will still be in an active event? No, right? That's what it turned out. She said, oh, well, I just thought you could start breaking down early. No, you can't. We are not there to be the spectacle. Oh, look, the florist is here breaking down. No, not doing that, okay? So anyway, you did the right thing, checking in with the venue and getting the right details. So good on you. Okay. And the fifth question, which could either be the biggest, longest one or the shortest one, is from a flower farmer. They have a farm and they want to expand to retail. And it sounds like this would be a completely different location. It's not on the farm. And it would be an extension of the farm, which I guess would mean being able to sell things they grow there. But it would ultimately be different. And the idea would be that they'll be selling things on consignment. So they were asking, any advice? Anybody want to consult on this? So I'm always happy to talk about things like this because there's a lot to think about. But we can simplify it by starting from the top, which is, what is this going to cost you? What are the expenses? What is the rent? What's the overhead? What do you need to pay yourself, your employees, your team in order to make this work? So what does it cost you every single month to run this? What does it cost you to do it for a year? are you willing to lose that much money? Right? Like, that's the straight up question. Is that an amount of money that you are comfortable going, I am willing to gamble this on this business? I want to be clear. I'm not saying that in a negative way. Like, are you willing to lose it? No, like it's a risk. You know, sometimes as someone who teaches business, I'll tell you one of my pet peeves. One of my pet peeves is very like kind of manipulative social media posts aimed at florists that say things like, nobody ever said the business side would be so hard. Nobody ever said that you would have to work this out many hours and do this many things. And it's like, it gives me heebie-jeebies. It doesn't like make me angry because it's like, hello, yeah, everybody says that, by the way. Maybe you weren't listening, but everybody says business ownership is hard, right? Whether you have a retail location or you work from home, owning a business is hard. When you have perishable product, restaurants, floral design businesses, it's hard, okay? So running a business is hard, which means there is no guarantee that starting this retail venture will be profitable at all, which is why we want to know our numbers. How much does it cost to do this? How much does it cost to do it for 6 months or a year? Are you willing to flush that money down the toilet for an experience? The answer might be absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Because it is so worth it to get the potential payoff. Because here's how much I project will sell. So again, with like the biggest heart and embrace, okay, I know that it can sound really exciting to start a new business, which is the first thing I said to this person. Sounds exciting, right? And again, I'm so happy to talk about it if you want one-on-one. What is it that is drawing you to this? What do you think you're going to get out of it? And what are the financials? Because if we don't do the financials, the upfront easiest part, we have no idea what we're doing here. We need to know what everything costs and how much we need to sell in order to make that work. So if you're doing things on consignment, how much of that will you keep? How much of it goes back to the artist? And how many artists do you have in your Rolodex who are willing to stock your shop for free, right? Because that's what they're doing when they sell on consignment. They have to have a lot of trust that you are actually going to sell these pieces, or else they could have them someplace else where they're selling, right? So there's relationships involved in this as well. So do you have the relationships that are going to give you the product to keep the store full? How are we bringing people in there? And how much do we need to sell if we're keeping, I don't know, to be really frank, what a reasonable consignment percentage is based on the type of business that you're setting up. Oftentimes people do 10 to 30% consignment on different things. You know, like if you go into like a thrift shop that sells things on consignment, you know, you are getting a portion of it and then they are getting a portion of the profit. But they don't run their whole business on that. You know what I mean? There have to be some things where you're getting like the full markup, where you're getting full profit and you're not trying to run your business on a really thin margin of just the consignment. Even though I really do understand the appeal because you're not out of pocket, it doesn't necessarily take away the other financial concerns of how you're paying yourself, how you're paying your team. What are you doing? What are you really doing here? Why are we doing this? So if you do decide to open this business, I hope it is a great success, but I hope that the first thing that you're going to do is just look at your numbers. Here's how much the rent is. Here's how much the additional overhead is. Here's how much we would need to pay somebody to be in the shop this many hours. Here's how much we're going to have to spend on, there'll be other things, right? These other things. How much do I have to sell every month at 30% commission? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a very low amount of profit potentially on each item. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I'm not saying it in the negative. I'm just saying it in the objective. From the objective point of view, how many of these things do we need to sell? What are the price points going to be? Is this even feasible? And maybe we don't know all these answers, but we do have some money saved up that we are willing to gamble on ourselves to see if we can make this work. That's not what I always recommend, okay? I recommend doing the math. I'm the flower math girl, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't take a risk in your business. Risks can pay off, right? Why do we have the saying, no risk, no reward, right? However, we want to be reasonable with our risk, because I actually have a good friend who ran a lovely little retail, actually it wasn't that little, a lovely retail store, almost exclusively on consignment. And it was not easy. It was not easy to do. If things don't sell quickly enough, the artists come and take their work back. So, those are things where you do need to have just, an overview, a bird's eye view of like how we're going to make all these pieces work and still keep your profitable farm going. Because what we don't want to do is take a risk that takes us away from what's actually solid and the foundation of our business. All right. If you are watching this and you have questions on that, you let me know. All right. And I'm wishing you good luck if you do decide to start your business, your retail shop, that is. Okay. I think that's it for today. I am going to soak in a little bit of summer gardening vibes today before I get ready to do a wedding for the weekend. And then we start school up here in Vermont. I know some of you already have your kids back in school and all that kind of stuff. Man, time flies. But keep doing beautiful work in your business. If you have questions, let me know. Join me over on Patreon if you want to get closer looks behind the scenes at some of the things I do to run my business. And if you are on Patreon, I just posted a video with more time management tips to help you make sure, for anybody who hasn't been watching, I've been doing these time management tips, whether you have a little creative ADD or you simply get a little overwhelmed when all the flowers get into your studio and you're not sure where to start. I've been taking people behind the scenes. I've got 3 videos that are just for my Patreon people that are showing you what I'm working on what day, the order I'm doing things, how I'm doing things in a way to help speed myself along so that I am not cutting things more often than I need to, right? If you can cut once, that's great. I am sharing basically what I do and the order in which I do it to help you kind of put together the pieces for yourself as well. If you're somebody who's up until midnight doing weddings, that's who this is for. You'll see in all of my videos, I'm done 6 o'clock. That's when I wrap up for the night because of the planning. All right. I've had plenty of nights where I'm making boutonnieres at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday. Don't get me wrong. I'm not fronting. I'm not here to lie to you. However, with time and practice, experience, there are definitely ways to avoid having that happen. And that's what these time management tips are for. So anyway, over on Patreon, if you are interested. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week for another Tuesday Q&A. And keep your questions coming in. I love them and I appreciate them. Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.